Hello, everybody. This is the meeting of the Southborough Open Space Preservation Commission meeting. It's a virtual Zoom meeting. It may be watched, or you may participate in the meeting remotely with a meeting link at www.southborough.com, remote meetings. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on June 16th, 2021, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. No in-person attendance. Agenda. I'm going to start with the agenda. That's not part of what I read. So having read that, I can call the meeting to order, having a quorum of the commission here, Sarah, Karen, and myself. Is there anyone else in the
thus far?
Okay. If you see someone and I happen to miss it, let me know, but it doesn't mean they get to talk or they get to be raised up at that time. We'll have.
Sounds good.
I'm
having some computer problems where my mouse isn't showing.
Ooh.
I'm not exactly sure how to fix it, but I somehow found the unmute button to be able to talk, but I can't really click around. So.
All right. Okay. So
I'm here, but I don't know. Might need patience to wait for me to unmute if I mute it.
Maybe
don't
just
mute.
Stay unmuted.
Stay unmuted, and we'll just bear with whatever noise is in the background.
Yeah.
To the best of your opinion. All right. So I understand we have a time constraint today. We also have a lot of things to go over, and a lot of this is unfortunately me giving updates, and that maybe we can have a future more robust conversation input meeting. How's that?
Sounds good. Freddie, I just checked again, and for some reason I'm not seeing the Word version of that agenda. If you could resend it, that would be great, and I'm happy to take minutes.
Okay, you're going to have to wait a minute.
Okay. Let me just see if I can copy and paste from this PDF onto a Word file. That'll work. My mic.
Sent.
Let me. You just sent it again?
No, I'm looking for it. I have to look for it in sent of my town account.
I'm just seeing if I can copy and paste it into a Word version. Let me see if I can. No, it's a mess. Or maybe
right.
Sarah.
I just sending it. So wait a minute and see if you get it.
Okay.
Sarah, we're on hold right now because Sarah's computer rebooted on her. So
Okay.
we're taking a few minute break.
Oh,
Not talking about business. Did you get the
I got it.
Word document?
Perfect.
Okay.
December 21st minutes. Get rid of that PDF. And I opened up on my screen here, Freddie, all the documents that you just sent today. So if you need
we're not
any of them, I can bring them up.
All right, thank you. We're not going through them today.
Okay.
Sorry, I just sent them. Sarah coming back. She's got computer problems, and we don't have a quorum until she gets back online.
That's fine. I'm just setting things up.
And if we have to. We'll just wait. Oh, there she is. Hopefully this will work.
Okay, I'm back.
You're back? All right, so the
Great.
meeting's restarting at 12:10. Because you're going to be typing into the minutes, Karen,
Mhm.
I don't want you to screen share it.
Okay.
I'm just going to go off, we don't have to screen share it. I'm going to go off the,
I mean, I have two screens, so I could do both. I could share.
can you? Okay, I just want to be sure you don't share the one you're typing into.
Yeah, so.
It gets too confusing for people like me.
And where would I find the agenda for today?
It's on the website, Sarah, but also Freddie just sent it to me.
I didn't send it to everyone. It's on the website. The first item after call meeting to order was review plans, Ken's Foods. So we had already talked about this and came up with a decision. And then it was dependent on my site walk, what I found. And yeah, so we don't need that up there right now, really. Because we're not looking at the plans.
I have the agenda up right now. Did you want me to share this agenda? Or no?
I know it's on the agenda, so I don't think it needs to be up there.
Okay, all right, I'll stop. I just knew
So-
that Sarah didn't have it, but okay.
Okay. It's Ken's Foods, which is on Route 9. And we met with our last meeting. We had some representatives from there. And they're in a process with the Planning Board and Conservation Commission still. When I looked at it, what we had discussed was, looking at the area and the planting and what was adjacent to it. And what I found was that adjacent to the area, if it meets the square footage requirements, is very satisfactory for what they were required to replace. I'll double check with, the town's engineering company, Fuss and O'Neill, should be able to confirm that it's the right square footage, right, that they're replacing. But what happened is I looked at the edge of that area which becomes the 20-foot no touch of the wetlands adjacent. And there's a lot of nice shrubs in there, but there is a lot of invasives. I'm going to suggest that this commission recommend removing the invasives and replanting with a certain amount of shrubs from Dr. G. Gear's list. And I think that will take another site visit to count and see how many to recommend. But one thing that Dr. G. Gear is often pointing out is that the willows and early spring blooming plants are the ones that are missing, and that we really need to focus on those. And because this is a wetland area, putting willows in would be a perfect fit. And if this committee, there's a couple of other ones too that are wetland specific, like the button bush. So I'm wondering if you would, just for consensus now, and then we'll take a vote later. Do you agree with that proposal that they remove the invasives adjacent to the?
I agree with that
meadow?
proposal, and I like the idea of the willows.
And furthermore, the meadow is very wet there. It's not a wetland, but the meadow area is what's called a wet meadow. I believe the whole property has this situation where there's a high water table. It's really flat. So I would recommend that we have a suggested plant list. We talked about this before, that they use for the seed mix. The seed mix they used for the prior one, two things. One, it was upland. Two, it never established. Three, I saw plants that weren't really native. Most of the seed mixes aren't that great, and we would like to focus on Dr. G. Gear's plants. I'm meeting with a meadow expert who's going to provide some information for Breakneck Hill, and I'm hoping to get his input. And if that would be okay, we would focus on that specific custom seed mix, recommend they use it.
Mhm. That sounds good.
And then the other part of it is, the bigger part is establishment. Because they had a horrible experience with what happened before, and this area may be even more difficult, I think we need to have a recommendation to the planning board that the establishment of the meadow be part of the permit. That it's not enough to say put a meadow in, that there need to be specific steps. And one of them is getting the soil prep, which can take a year. You know, coming up with a method, I would suggest they work with a meadow installation expert. We don't tell people who to hire, but it appears that the landscape architects and landscapers they used last time really didn't, and this is new, I'm not criticizing as much as suggesting they need someone who's more familiar with the process, because putting in wild native meadows is new and most landscape architects don't know how to do it. And it was quite clear that they didn't know how to do it for the last one, because it didn't, you know, it was 35,000 square feet of clover with a couple of flowers. It just wasn't anything like that was required. So I think what I'm going to recommend is, if the planning board thinks it's beneficial to put benchmarks in, that after a certain amount of time from construction, they have a certain amount of the work done for the soil prep and then the seed prep, and then at another point in time, like 2 years, that they have the meadow starting to be established, and then the maintenance methods, which are a certain specific type of mowing. And I don't have that, but if I have your go ahead, I will take the effort to write it up. And because we're all not on camera, I'll need to ask before we make a motion if everyone agrees to that. Karen?
I agree. Yes.
Sarah?
I agree.
Do you have any other comments about that portion of it? Does anything seem unreasonable or anything different you'd like to add?
I guess just one thing I'd add is the fact that they hired somebody who didn't really know how to work with natives is a good learning, I think, for all of us, that it is a new area. And so maybe in the future, also, if we can have certain landscaping companies that we recommend, or, you know, just the ones that are used to.
That gets tricky because we can't promote businesses, I don't think. And I want to be clear, I can't say they had someone who didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
All I can say is the results
They must be
indicated.
super frustrated. They spent that money. They, you know, they thought they did it right, and then they didn't do it right. I'm just trying to think, what can we learn from this so we can help businesses more in the future?
I think for the future, it would be worthwhile to come up with some resources, like not companies to recommend. I mean, I'm certainly going to say, this is the gentleman we're working with. It's one company I know of, but there, I'm sure, are others. I think if you haven't worked with someone, you don't know.
Right, right.
There are a lot of people out there getting into native plant gardening, which is one thing. Meadow installation is a whole nother world. And I agree. I think we need to have some resources, whether it's including books we recommend. And I meant to send them this book, Larry Weiner, who wrote Garden Revolution. He installs meadows across the country, museums, colleges, campuses, you know, big scale, and private homes and large scale private home meadows, but he's not as focused. So he knows the process, not necessarily as focused or at all focused on Dr. G. Geer's plants, which we have said in the past. Our reason for using native plants isn't just because we're native plant snobs. It's because of the conservation value, and that using the plants on Dr. G. Geer's list is the conservation value for pollination systems. So this gentleman, Nick from Ashland is actually the only guy around here who works with Larry Weiner. He was actually recommended to me from Larry's Weiner, and then who works elsewhere in this country, Philadelphia maybe. And then if you want him to come here, you have to pay his airfare and his hotel room. So he gets pricey. But I think we could put together a list of resources along with a recommendation. You can't tell someone who to hire, but a recommendation they get some expert advice, if that's all right with you guys.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. I guess.
Okay. And that I think this needs to be an ongoing project, not just for this one time. I'll try to put something together, and then I have to send something out to, the Ken's Foods applicants are anxious for something from us, but I think it can be a little vaguer than what we may want to end up as our final recommendation, because my understanding is that this is not near the end of their process of permitting. They have a few more meetings, so we would have another ability after I meet with the the meadow installation expert to talk back with the commission and give you a review of what I write up to submit. But maybe I can, based on our vague recommendations, give them some input now. It's just hard because we're not meeting again before I think they want something from us. So are you all right with the, specific that we're going to request specific custom seed mix, that I'll get some input from on Sunday after Christmas from the meadow gentleman, protocol for installation, and removing the invasives and replanting with shrubs on G-Gear's list, including willows. Exact number to be. And then the other part of that is, and I hadn't looked at this yet, and we need to look at it, but we can make this recommendation. There's a lower impact development site plan component of this project, which typically includes lower impact development techniques, which are like rain gardens. And I'd like to recommend they follow that and use all native plants from G-Gear's list on that. And we would have to look at the plan in detail for a final recommendation. But does that, so that's the second phase of, second component of this recommendation. And the third one is they have to go in front of the Conservation Commission for wetland permitting. And under the wetland permitting, I would suggest we ask for the same things, that they have to remove the invasives existing in the wetlands and replace with plants from Dr. G-Gear's list, and that they increase the native plant buffer. Right now, there's 20 feet from the riverfront. No touch wetlands. And the rest of it is lawn. Remember at our last meeting, they said that the Ken's Food likes the clean look of lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I suggested that maybe they should start to learn to love the clean look of meadows.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be extended by a significant proportion. Like, I don't even know, like 100 feet. I'll just make that up. A significant portion, and that we should look at the plan and come up with an amount in the future. Does that sound, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of feet there are, but it's just no need for all that lawn in a riverfront. It's all riverfront area. And that the fourth one is they are putting the building into a section, a small portion of the riverfront area, which you're not supposedly allowed to build in. So it would be I think we should ask for that amount of land to be planted elsewhere on the property as natives, in addition to the wildflower meadow.
Mhm.
Expand the wildflower meadow that they already owe by that amount. Does that all sound okay?
Yeah, I think that sounds okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I don't know that this isn't our final statement. It's by, I think consensus is good, or do you want it? I'll make a motion and then you can say so moved. How's that?
Good.
The work within a meadow installation expert for the replacement area, extend the size of that by the same amount that the building is taking up riverfront area, remove the invasives along the meadow buffer, replant with shrubs from Dr. G. Gear's list with a focus on willows, amount of species and size to be determined later. That we request that the low impact development techniques be utilized for a rain garden somewhere on site with plants from Dr. G. Gear's list. That's 5. 6, that the for the wetland permitting, we request that the invasives along the wetlands and the riverfront area be removed and replaced with plants on Dr. G. Gear's list, and that the buffer, the 20-foot no-touch, or, you know, I think there's another term for that, but the wetlands, Southborough's bylaw, which requires a 20-foot buffer, that be expanded by 100 feet. So I think that's 9 recommendations, and that we will revisit it more specifically later and have a conversation with the applicant at that time. Is there a so moved? Any conversation? Well, so moved first.
I mean, we pretty much had already discussed each of those points. So yes, I'm supportive of all that.
Say so moved is what you need to, we're making a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there any comments? We're all good on that. So are we?
Yes.
No comments? Okay, hearing none. Who's in favor? Karen?
Karen Zwickowicz is in favor.
Sarah?
Sarah Rossitano in favor.
Freddie Gillespie in favor. Okay. I got somehow I got booted out of full screen. Okay. So next agenda item.
Harvard Book Depository Landscape Plan.
Yeah. So for that, Harvard has a site plan over off of Pine Hill Road, and it is a not a lot. They're doing I think they tore down a building and they're replacing it and putting an addition on, and there's not a lot there, but they do have a lawn area, and they had proposed it sounded like a great, biodiversity lawn mix alternative, except for when I went through it, they're all non-native plants. So as an individual, because the commission hadn't had a chance to look at it, I sent a letter saying it wasn't that good. And the planning board agreed for me to meet with Harvard's landscape architect and the town planner, and we're going to come up with some suggestions. And this would purely be plants from that make good lawn alternatives, some of the ones that are in the lawn alternative area at the library, as well as the plants on Dr. G. Gear's list. And then this would be input before we make a recommendation and seeing what seeds are available. So I would be your representative going to have that conversation. And if that's amendable to you guys.
Yeah, that's amenable to me.
Yeah, I don't think there's any vote there. It's just I'm letting you know that that's the process. And then after that, we would write a recommendation to the planning board. Don't have one now because we haven't met with them, right? Okay. This here, the next one is just 156 Northborough Road. We talked about that before. We went on a site visit. They had planted all cultivars and the planning board is making them remove every cultivar and replace with a native straight species as required in the permit. And also some of the plants weren't in the right place and they didn't have, there was a rain garden that they ran into some ledge so that they only put half the rain garden in. So I think they're still working on how they're going to have to modify that. So there's nothing really for us to weigh in because that permit was already made. It was just a site walk to see if they had actually complied and they didn't. And the planning board is making them.
Freddie, I just wanted to let you know that Jane Davis, Janet Maney, Marguerite,
I know.
And Sam Stivers are attendees currently. Yep.
Thank you. So they're probably most of them here for this next one. So the CPA Library Application. This is, so far running behind the scenes. This is tied to the and this is on the agenda twice, so I'm going to just deal with it here, right? It goes with the St. Mark's Road Park. So if you've heard, there's been controversy over the St. Mark's relocation and then the removal of trees to create this public park. And we haven't discussed it, but it was pretty much well reported on in public social media and the blog, selectmen's meetings. Our process and our role there has always been to review the plants, period. I just want to be clear because some crazy accusations have been made that we're responsible for tearing down those trees. We are not planning or planting or having any design role in that garden. It's just when they put the gardens in and they have plants, we're recommending which plants we're making some suggestions, which we want to see that Dr. G. Gear's plants. We went over this at a meeting last March. They have cultivars. We want no cultivars, and we want some of the plants to be replaced with some of the Dr. G. Gear plants. But the main point is they're all native straight species plants. And, we're working with the director of DPW on that. We're not saying where the plants go, how many, which ones. We're asking if they can include this. I would also like us to make a recommendation. There's and I think this might be on the library property. And this would be certainly not for us to decide, but to make a recommendation to the library trustees. There's a low area that fills with water. It's adjacent to the library parking lot close to Route 85. We'd like that to be, I'd like us to recommend that become a rain garden. Filling it in is not going to solve the problem. I had met with a rain garden stormwater expert who had suggested that having native plants that infiltrate the water help solve the excess water problem. I have seen that low-lying area, and I have a video of it, fill up with water that then floods and sheets down the whole parking lot headed towards the library like a river. So I think having an expert designed rain garden there could help alleviate that water. And I think it's a good recommendation, but that would just be a suggestion recommendation to the trustees. The other part of this is the library native pollination preservation garden. That is one of the things we're not sure how exactly the new park is coming into the library property into there's a walkway proposed over to the parking lot, and we certainly had a phase 2 planned and discussed that it not planned completely, but discussed. And we have since met. I had been in an in-person meeting with the library trustees and talked about it, that we got CPA money to get some information. A lot of this was about the water situation and what the cost would be to actually do any of this work. And I don't, we need another meeting to go over any definite plans here. I think the libraries, and I'll bring them on after I finish giving you an update so that they can hear where this is at right now, that the application would be just for the what the phase 2 was always intended to be, was not to extend or expand any planting areas besides what's there right now and has been removed. So when you were looking at the property, and I'm sorry, I don't have a map here right now, there was an area that had invasive species. We have talked about putting a specimen redbud tree there, and that would be not taking up any greater space than I think it was the multiflora rose that was removed already. And then the rest of the area is the treed area behind where the lawn alternative area is. And all of that has been used as a dumping ground for the all the leaves of the garden. It's caused damage to trees. We want to have it's been suggested we have, a tree arborist look at the health of the trees, and there's tree limbs that are hazard to fall on your head. So if we're going to start using that area as a activity area, you don't want tree limbs coming down and impaling people. That almost happened once when we had volunteers over there. So to look at what specifically needs to come out as far as tree trimming, I'm not envisioning or recommending any trees come out. Any ones that are, that is also for the arborist to discuss with the trustees. But what we are recommending is that the rear section of that, where it goes to the back of the library property, is full of invasives, and that all of those invasives be cleaned out and then replanted with some low shrubs from Dr. G. Gear's list as well. It's about 20 feet from the stone wall, this whole woodland area. It's hard to do it without a schematic, which we'll have by our next meeting. The front area of the woodland area, we're proposing to put in native flowers of shade, that like shade from Dr. G. Gear's list, so that and some early spring blooming ephemeral flowers that come up only in the very early spring before the trees leaf out. So it's really just cleaning up an area that's pretty much an invasive and weedy mess. There's a lot of trash in there. I won't tell you what I've picked up in the property before, but there's a lot of pretty not great trash that's been covered up with leaves, and then when the leaves decompose. The third one is there's a broken down little island of probably self-sown apple trees, and the request is if the library agrees to remove those trees and replant with some shrubs from Dr. G. Gear's list, so we can create the full suite of pollen and nectar plants to have a healthy pollination systems. habitat there. If that doesn't work, at least they need to be cleaned up because they're just a mess. I had a orchardist come out last fall when he was doing work at Breakneck Hill, and I asked him to stop by the library, and he looked. He said the trees really are not worth saving. I wanted to see if he would think it would be beneficial to prune them and bring them back to health, and he said they're not worth saving. They're in a shady area. They don't do well in shade. Doesn't mean if the trustees are, really committed to those trees that they couldn't have them. But I'm just moving forward on getting more information on the, and I did meet with DPW director about what work they might be able to do as far as cleaning out the invasives and the tree limbs that are, if you look up, you see tree limbs hanging, ready to come down. They're not attached to a tree. They're just held up in the other branches. So I think that's it. I know the trustees are having a meeting. They're waiting for this information. I agree it's overdue, but some of this has been, we were kind of caught off guard by the whole St. Mark's project coming into that area, and it's not clear still what that's going to be. So first, Karen and Sarah, do you have any comments?
No comments from me. No.
Sarah?
Very complete.
Do you want to see if anyone from the, I believe we have members of the library trustees and the director of the library here, if they want to say anything?
I can allow them all to talk.
They can raise their hand.
So you've raised them up to panelists?
I can. Would you like me to raise them to panelists?
I think you just did, because I see Jane Davis there and Janet Maney.
I just said asked to talk, talking permitted. So I'm allowing them each to
Margaret is, I'll call on Margaret. Hi, Margaret.
Hi, how are you? What you said so far corresponds with what we understand your plans are. And I, at our next meeting, which will be on the 18th of January, I hope that you'll be able to attend and that we can clarify with the trustees what the semi-final plans would be for the work you're doing.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I
Finish.
just say from what you and I have walked that, and I agree that those 3 apple trees are pretty ratty and could go. And other than that, I think we're sort of in agreement with what we've got happening here. So if you and your board would like to attend the next trustees meeting for the library, I think we could have a profitable discussion then. Also, I think we could have some sketches, which I'm willing to provide, of where exactly things will be happening.
Thank you, Marguerite. I want to follow up with a couple of other things. The CPC has supported this when we first went to them for some admin money to get some information on cost. So they have, even though we haven't finalized the plans and application, we have a placeholder which can be pulled if they don't vote to support this. And to vote to support this by their January meeting, and we made sure this fit in with the timeline of the warrant articles needing to be finalized. At the January CPC meeting, which is after the trustees meeting, so nothing will be done without full, if the trustees say no, that's, well, we've kind of already agreed to do something, but anything specific that they don't like or don't want to move forward on, this is certainly going to happen at that meeting. And I'm hoping, and I shouldn't say hope, I will have some concrete plans to the trustees a week before your meeting, as well as Marguerite. I want to explain to people how this, you and I came up to be at the library talking about this, is because of the concern over what happened at St. Mark's. And while we were there, we said, well, here's what we were thinking of on the phase 2, not because everyone was pretty I would say shocked by the amount of trees coming down. And that certainly led a lot of our conversations and why we met on site. The other thing I wanted to mention is we're putting some funding in on benches, and certainly want the library. You know, I don't even know until the style and design and placement. I think my intention was to leave that sort of funded, but not a definite plan, because one, until the invasives come out and the shrubs go back in, you won't really know how it will fit in, or till those trees come out. And certainly until the park goes in, you won't know what
And
the impact.
The park is still up in the air. I think that the rain garden idea for that flat area that keeps filling is something we really could talk about fruitfully. I think at this point, I would like to provide, in conjunction with you, actual diagrams of where we think things would work well, and see if both of our groups can agree that this is what it should kind of look like.
Okay.
So
I just want to be clear, though, that as far as what we were thinking for the phase 2, there was no, if you look at if you're standing in the parking lot and you look at the area we're talking about, there would be no increase to any planting areas under,
Correct.
aside from what we're talking about, if that low-lying area became a rain garden, which may or may not be part of this phase 2, because I think that's maybe a bigger discussion for, you know, you can do things to construct a rain garden that infiltrate water better than just plants alone, but that's above our expertise. Which plants to use is certainly something we'd be happy to provide information on.
So Freddie, could we leave it that at the library trustees meeting on the 3rd Tuesday of January, which would be the 18th, that we have diagrams in hand, and we can bring both groups in together to discuss and sort of semi-finalize how we both perceive this project will look. And I think having the St. Mark's Road Park in there was certainly a curved ball that surprised everybody, but maybe it'll work to our benefit to have a nice open area back there for everybody, for you, for the library, for all of it. So I think if we can save our points and discussions for the meeting on the 18th, it would be very beneficial for everybody.
Yep. Yes, because we don't have anything concrete here for you to look at, which, you know, is a problem. So I would agree to that. Always our intent to present something for your review.
Right. We need to look at the plans. Yeah.
So let's look at the calendar, January 18th. So around the 11th, we'll have some plans to you to review for a week beforehand.
Sounds good, and that can circulate to everybody on both teams, as it were. And I think that'll be useful.
Yep. Is there? Your hand is still up, Marguerite. Did Jane or Janet or Kim or Ryan have any comments?
And I just want to, excuse me, be sure I captured this correctly for the minutes. So the meeting you just invited us to, Marguerite, on January 18th, is that correct? January
Yes.
18th. Yep. And Freddie, you said that we could get plans to them by January 13th. Is that correct?
I said the 11th, so they'd have them for a week. The goal would be the 11th.
Good.
I just want to be, you don't need to know the details, but you know, the 11th is the date to have plans.
Super.
Oh, and so I think that's it for now from what I have to say.
Okay, I'm okay with it. I don't know about the rest of my boards. Any thoughts on this?
Nope, we're okay.
Okay, I did want to mention
We're
That the-
okay.
Thank you, Jane. And is
Yeah. Oh, I don't know
So
if
we
you can
can
hear. Yes, I'm fine too.
Okay,
Janet,
great.
I did want to say and tell the everyone here that the Rotary Club and the Open Space Commission hosted Dr. Robert G. Gear last week at St. Mark's School. And it's really exciting that the Rotary Club is going to be involved in our efforts, maybe on a new location if we, if we have one for another one of these gardens. But Jane Davis attended, and we were very pleased to have someone from the library trustees be able to be there. I did send out a link for the Zoom, but I heard the Zoom was a audio only, and hopefully we will be having a Sam did it, not Sam Stivers, but Sam Southborough Access Media did a video, and once we get them to incorporate the PowerPoint slides into the recording, and that takes some editing time, I will send that out to all of the trustees as well.
Looks like Janet Naney has her hand up. Ready?
Oh,
Janet?
didn't mean to.
You
Oh,
didn't mean to?
there we go. Didn't mean to.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Well, I'll wave back at you.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I think there's Kim. Is she from the library? I don't have a last name, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is Kim Regan. I didn't have any questions. I just was wanting to sit in and listen. So thanks for the information.
Okay. And Ryan, anything? Nope.
And Kim, the spelling of your last name, is it Regan?
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
And Mr. Stivers, Sam Stivers, did you have any input on this particular topic?
No comment, Freddie.
All right. Anything about the St. Mark's Park that you wanted to add? I think that's still under lots of discussion.
Working on getting a committee appointed to work on the plan for that, the specific plan for the space there. So again, no output yet, but hopefully moving forward on it soon.
Okay. I had been in discussion with Andrew Dennington, Selectman Dennington, who I think is taking the lead for the selectmen, and he was the one who was setting up that committee. And we agreed that the Open Space Preservation Commission didn't need a seat there because our role is looking at the plants, not doing the design. And we were okay with that. And, if it changes to what that committee's actually working on, we would keep our foot in the door at that point. But for right now, we're just solely looking at the plant composition.
Okay, good. And again, Andrew, I think is very focused on that, and I think he'll do a great job in terms of pushing that along. So hopefully we'll make progress quickly there.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else on this, if anyone has any other comment, you can raise your hand or just speak out, because I'm going to move on to the next agenda item if you if I don't hear anything.
Okay.
All right, I guess that's it. So you can take everyone off of the panel, Karen.
All right, everyone. Speak now.
Thank you.
Pretty soon,
Okay.
I'm disabling your talking.
Please don't leave.
All
Thank you for
right.
coming, but you don't have to leave just because you're not panelists.
There are times I wish I could do this with my kids, disable talking. Yeah, that would be nice.
The next agenda item, new members. I think we're going to need to do some outreach. We do have an interested member who, due to some personal reasons, can't join us quite yet and will get back to us. She's interested, but she can't commit to us. She has other focus areas in her life right now. So I think on a future agenda, we should talk about having some kind of outreach for new members. And then minutes. We're behind on our minutes. I think it's just one, Karen, is that correct?
It's the one from our last meeting, and Sarah had sent out a draft to you and I.
I didn't see the draft. I saw one from you.
That was just, yeah, that was just saying.
That was
that
the
I
agenda.
thought that Sarah, it was only the agenda because Sarah was the one who actually took the minutes. And it's in, I saw it in my inbox. Let me see. She sent it out right after the meeting.
And I apologize. Sarah,
Okay.
were those minutes? Did you
Those-
feel they were,
I've never done them before, so I sent them for review.
Karen, can you find them? And I'm really sorry to be doing this at a meeting. I wouldn't, normally I'd table it for the next meeting, but we're behind on owing them for the town. If we can, I'd like to,
Yeah, let me see.
and
Here
if,
it is. I just found them. All right. Do you want me to share my screen so you can see them, Freddie?
Yeah.
Can you see them now?
Yep.
So I'll go through them.
All right, is that a Word document?
It is, I can make edits as you tell me.
Okay, I would suggest that we said that we didn't invite Scott and Bill to the meeting. We advance them to panelists or something. Because it's a public meeting, we don't invite people. So Scott Dowdy and, probably murdering that word, and Bill Pizzoni were advanced to panelist and, okay, that's good. So a lot of this is, I'm so sorry I didn't read this because a lot of this is what we just said again today.
Yep.
We only added a few things to that, so that makes it easy. I think after Karen, go back up, Karen. After Karen approved, Sarah approved, Freddie approved,
Mm-hmm.
right? Motion passes. Or we'll put that in front, which either way. Now on to the next one. It said invited Michael Quinn of Northborough Road Project.
Mhm.
Plan is to remove cultivars, not non-natives. Next sentence down. By definition, they're non-native, but that gets people to,
Do you also want to do the above one, advanced Michael Quinn?
no, I was just not trying to start. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I think as you were saying, you were like, we'd like to invite you to the, and so that's just what I wrote.
Right. But for our minutes,
Yeah.
okay, new members. The 7:21 minutes were sent in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Budget, okay. And then I think under native pollinator, native plant initiative,
Mm-hmm.
can you write, Freddie provided an update on status. I think, or did we skip it? I think I went through briefly.
It shows status updates.
Okay. But you need to say that, that something happened, not just. So that's good. And then let's go further down, Karen. All right. Chair report. Did I give a report?
No, I don't think so.
So did we go over the zoning bylaw? We didn't have an opinion, did we?
I don't think so.
I think we said it was so late in the process.
Yeah, I remember.
So what you do for both of those, erase. Not everything on the agenda has to make it into the minutes if we didn't discuss it.
I'm just gonna.
It's not a transcript. It's it's to let people know what we're working on. Okay, so is there a motion to accept the minutes for October 21st as amended?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from October 21st as amended.
2021.
2021.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Karen?
Karen Svikovich is in favor.
Sarah?
Sarah Rossitano in favor.
Freddie Gillespie in favor? Not flavor, in favor. I'm very flavorful too, but I'm in favor. Okay. All right. So we're good with that. Next thing on the, and Karen, can you send that in right away with to the meetings? That would be great. Ospc annual report. We're behind on this. I think we can still send it. One day last week or a week ago, I was requested to send something in of the highlights of what we have accomplished. There was no time for a meeting to do that, so I quickly jotted something off. I can send that out, and maybe another commissioner can help go through the minutes with me to see what else we want to highlight for our annual report. Can either Karen or Sarah do that?
Sorry, I lost my copy of the minutes that we just approved, so I need to find it here. It's not showing up.
Don't lose those.
That I moved it to. So I can't focus on your question right now. Sorry, Freddie. Nor do I think I probably have time to go through the minutes. Shoot, where is it?
All right, Sarah, do you have any ability to try to draft an annual report?
What's involved with that?
I'll send you what I sent to the selectmen, and then you will look, use your memory and look through our minutes briefly if you need help to see, or just even our agendas to see what else we might have worked on that's worth mentioning in our annual report. The high points are, what we've accomplished in the past year, given we had
Okay.
COVID, was pretty incredible.
I can try, yeah.
Okay. And
What's the timeline?
I think, a couple weeks ago, I'll contact and see how far out we can be the last minute. Okay. I don't think it's a heavy lift. I'll give you an old one so you can sort of copy the formatting. The next agenda item is actually a mistake because it's the library preservation garden again. It's a little bit different, but it said a project update phase 1. Basically for that, I will say that I'm sorry if there's other library trustees still here. My goal was not to.
There's 2.
Okay, not address that, but we owe some design work on the project for phase 1. A lot of that happened. We had a plan, and then because of the stone wall collapsing and then the flooding that occurred because a lot of the area was underground, was lower than it had been before. And we had plants arriving. We had to switch up some of the plants from the original plan. So I still need to finalize that and get that out. And I plan to have that as part of the CPA application. Materials, the materials that we send out to the trustees for the CPA application, if that makes sense. Have a whole project, you know, what's already been done, completed, and then that plan of that garden, and then the application, okay? Is there any comments there? Can we see if anyone in the audience wants to speak? You don't have to, can they raise their hand without being promoted?
Yeah.
Does anyone raising their hand?
No.
Okay, so we will put a big, you know, what's that saying? The whole kibosh will be planned to be sent out on the 11th, okay? Next agenda item is the Native Pollinator Native Plant Initiative. These are just a couple of updates. The golf course, nothing's different right now. The Halloran, we're still waiting for access so that we can start to plan for an invasive project there that then gets planted. If Sam Stivers is still in the audience, can we ask him if he has any updates for us?
He is.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Sam, but do you have any updates for us on how that's going with the Department of Transportation?
I think he would have to.
Let me see if I can allow him to speak. Allowed to talk, Sam. All right.
Hey, thanks. Freddie, no update. I've pinged the guy a couple of times. I've not heard from him, most recently a few days ago, so I will keep after him. He seemed very friendly. This is a guy in the legal department at MassDOT, and seemed to believe that that was something that could be arranged, and he was going to follow up with the engineers, and it's been like 3 or 4 weeks now since he said that, and so I will keep after him, but I don't have any new news. I'll let you know as soon as I hear anything.
Okay, I make the comment that there are many residents still complaining about how greatly their lives have been negatively impacted by the Mass Pike reconstruction of those bridges. My first concern that I was aware of was if you're on the south side of town, it was very difficult to get to the north side, knowing which roads were closed. You travel a road in the morning and in the afternoon, it would be closed. You couldn't plan your route. It was an inconvenience, but what I'm hearing from people is that live nearby is really big, loud noise complaints, keeping them up at night, lights, you know, over. I don't know if it's still ongoing, but given the level of impact, negative impact to the town from this reconstruction, I am not sure it is worth mentioning that this could be a way for the Mass Pike to, you know, give back to the community that, you know, has given a lot of inconvenience for this effort.
And Freddie, I've made that point on several occasions over the last 6 months as I've talked to various folks at MassDOT.
Okay.
Sadly, it's not clear to me that they care a lot at this level. But,
I think they don't.
It's worth
Different
making.
department.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it's time to bring in our state senator and representative to, you know, push the envelope.
Well, Carolyn Dykeman actually did open the door for us originally on that, which was very helpful. And I guess it seems to me it's not quite yet time until we actually hear something concrete from them. And if they're dragged for another few weeks or so, maybe then we inquire again with Carolyn. But I wanted to give this guy a chance to follow up on what he said was something that he could do. So
Okay.
that would be my next step.
So we'll look forward to hearing something in the next couple of weeks.
I hope.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sam.
Mhm.
Next agenda item. Master plan update. Karen, do you want to give us an update on where you stand? I have to say, I don't know how close you are to being finished, and I would hope we would look one last time before it's permanent at the open space components, which I don't think we did as a commission formally.
Yeah, so we still can. to be honest with you, I've missed the last 2 meetings because I've been traveling on both of the dates that they had their meetings. So I've been reading the meeting minutes, and they've been focusing on other chapters, not on our chapter. So our chapter kind of still is as stands from the last version that I sent you, but let me just double check with Judith to make sure there haven't been any additional changes. And I can send you out the draft for one last review.
Yeah, check if there have been any changes and then send us that. And then it would be our last opportunity, I think, because they're
Yeah,
hopefully getting,
That's right.
I think the master plan committee members who have donated tons and tons of their time. And thank you, Karen, for being our rep there. I think they're all ready to move on to the next.
Yeah, that's very accurate. We're pretty much on our last legs. So I think it's going to end soon, and that will be a good thing. I think there's been a lot of good work done, and I look forward to closure.
So our next agenda item is the chair report. And the chair report, you can take Sam down now. Unless he wants to stay, I don't know. Thank you. The chair report, I have 2 items to report on, and one is, and I'm sorry, I got it, I don't know, maybe last week, and I was in the middle of something else and didn't give it the attention it deserved. Chestnut Hill Farm has a 5-year annual management plan update required, and we are I think in the conservation restriction listed as a reviewer of that management plan. And Beth sent it out. I'm sorry, I said Beth. Beth is now Melissa. Melissa sent it out and said that we have until January 5th to review it. And I think we all should review it. And if possible, that we have a meeting before January 5th, even if it's to just check a couple of things. But if not, we will do the best we can. The area of the Chestnut Hill Farm conservation restriction that relates to open space is any impact on natural resource protection that we think's, relevant to our efforts, as well as public access. Public access was a big deal that we weighed in when the CR was being created, and making sure that public access, that's one of the benefits of why the town spent the money we spent to purchase the CR, and that the benefit of that stays as substantial today in this management plan as it was originally. And the only area I have concern about is, I had been there, they had a great Christmas tree lighting event. And, I took a walk and I noticed how much of the area is fenced off now for goats and sheep, which, it's exciting that they're doing that kind of farming. I don't know that when the CR, that's one of the things when you write a CR, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. One of the components of the CR that was a big negotiating point and selling point for the town was that all of the property would be available for access with snow cover for cross-country skiing and snowshoeing. And with so much of it fenced off now, I'm interested to look at, I haven't read it, how they're handling that, because obviously they need to protect their livestock, but we obviously need to retain our ability to have people enjoy not just the trails, but there's something about walking through a meadow and a field. And so how that's handled is something I think we want to look at. And if there's any other areas where we can weigh in on the at-risk species of pollinators and native plants, I think we want to look at that, as well as I know they do a great job of having nesting areas for bobolinks and maybe some other grassland birds. So we just want to pay attention to that. Okay.
Mhm.
And then we'll try to meet as a commission before the 5th, even if it's just I'll write out my thoughts and take everyone can weigh in as well, but I know everyone's really busy. Trying to get any work done right now is difficult. So that was one area of a chair report. And the second one is, I hope anyone may have heard about this effort to save the Constitution ash in a land trust land. It's a community land trust. I'm not sure of the exact name, but it's over on Pine Hill Road. And they found the Eastern ash borer, EAB. It's a species that pretty much kills all the ash trees. And it is nationwide. It started in the Midwest. I think maybe Michigan is where the first infestations were. And it's spread across the country. It is in Massachusetts. When you look at the map, they only update the map a couple of times a year. So there's more towns infested now. I'll send out that link later, but or you can Google it. Southborough now has it in Southborough, but the point is it didn't just show up on this land trust property. It's in Southborough. You know, it won't be just on that one property. They travel a half a mile from where they were bred. So, you know, each generation, a half a mile. I'm not sure how fast it happens, but we can envision that it is town-wide. And I think the impact to trees is important, as well as being aware of the management techniques. So I did call the forest specialist who's in charge of the EAB infestation for Massachusetts. He's at the Department of Conservation and Recreation. And if you agree, I'd like to ask him to come and give a presentation that, you know, maybe a Zoom meeting where we invite everyone in the town to attend. You know, the people from the Conservation Commission, the Land Trust, the you know, the Southborough Land Foundation. What is the impact of this going to be? My understanding is that aside from a few specimen trees that you decide you want to try to save, we just have to resign ourselves to the fact that we are going to lose all the ash trees in town. And also that the chemicals that are used have a negative impact to our insects. So it's not a benign process to treat a tree to try to save it. And that's why they're saying only to treat specimen trees, and that the rest of the trees you should just leave alone. But I think me telling you this is not the proper way to hear it. I think, you know, and I'd like more information. I'd like to ask this expert if he would come out on Zoom and give us a talk, so that, you know, if we can save the trees, that's, you know, certainly we want to save trees, but if we can't, you know, what then? And if we can, how do you choose which ones to save? And how do you make these decisions? And how do you know, how do you live in a post-ash tree world? You know, so I think there's a lot to be concerned about. Did I mention it's an invasive species? I hope I did. It's non-native. And what this gentleman said was that he believes that eventually all the ash trees in the country will be gone, and then the emerald ash borer won't have any food, so it will not disappear, but decline enough to be manageable, and that there's a lot of seed source and the ash tree will actually come back, unlike other problems with like the chestnut tree and the elm tree where the pathogen stays and, you know, the trees can't recover. He thinks they'll come back, probably not in our lifetime, but also in the meantime, scientists and forest experts are working on ways to combat the emerald ash borer, but it's not by treating the trees with chemicals to kill them. It's by, you know, finding a parasite that will take them out, or so there's a lot of work going on. Does that resonate with you? You see this as something that would be beneficial for us to do?
I think people would be interested in like a Zoom presentation on that.
Yeah, I think
It
it
would be, I didn't know they were here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I first thought it was just at this one property, but then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute, how'd they get there? They're probably on the reservoir property. And then I'm thinking, oh, and this I shouldn't say guy, his name's Eric something or other. He's like, yeah, they're probably townwide. And that means, we're already had an uproar about the all the trees coming down at the St. Mark's Road relocation. What does this mean when these trees are dying? And they're not even recommending that you cut down the trees. I mean, that's a huge expense, only if they're a hazard tree. He says there's value in leaving the trees there, even though they're infested. So, and that's something better for him to explain, but it has to do with, if you cut down all the ash trees, you might be cutting down the one ash tree that has resistance that can be bred to resist this in the future. And as we know from other conservation work, dead trees serve as great habitat. Woodpeckers eat them, but not fast enough to get rid of them. But many species, use them for purchase. And, there's a lot of life in a dead tree going on that we don't necessarily pay attention to. What did they call it? A snag. It's a wildlife condominium. And if you look at one, you'll see lots of different animals living in it in different ways. So if I can call him today, I will, and see if he has any availability to do this. If you agree. I don't think we need to vote as long as we're in agreement.
Yeah.
Let me look on the agenda. I think that was the last thing.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so before we end, we still have Ryan here. Before we say goodbye, did he want to comment on anything?
Ryan, any thoughts that you wanted to add?
I guess not. We don't force people to talk, but we don't want to.
I just forgot to click off.
Yeah. That happens too. All right. Is there a motion? It's
I'll make-
1:22.
Hold on a second.
Do you adjourn the meeting at 1:22?
He chatted, I'm okay. So he is there. He just,
Oh, I see that chat.
yep, so he doesn't have.
Okay, good. I guess we still have chat. Let's not bring up that topic though. We can still be a little funny. All right, so we have a motion to adjourn at 1:22. Is there who made that motion?
I made the motion. Yeah.
Karen, is there a second?
I second that motion.
Sarah makes the second. All in favor? Karen?
Karen Svikovich is in favor.
Sarah?
Capitano in favor.
And Freddie Gillespie in favor. Bye all. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.